Hey, this is Niels on Dynasty. Please like, share, and subscribe. Be kind, helpful, and grateful. Buy some silver, some platinum, some crystallized osmium. Don't listen to me or anything I say. It's all just be taken for bull crap, not for health or profit or any other reason. I am not a professional. I'm just me. Having said that, just me, let's see what Just Me has to show. Uh, let's start off with a new car. Not sure how I feel about this. This is an interesting thing. It's from Fox News. It says move over Ferrari. Decora introduced luxury car. I'm thinking to myself, our time's going to be so good that people are going to be buying luxury cars from a new car maker.
To become the first American ultra luxury vehicle in nearly a century, built entirely in the U.S. And here to tell us all about it is Decora Motors
what's up,
CEO
Sylvia
and
Rugger?
co-founder Christy D'Ambrosio Corral. Christy,
hi.
Great having you
Thanks
on.
for having me.
Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so
This car is gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Decora is the first ultra luxury American automaker in over a century. So we're very proud of that. We are made all here by hand, handcrafted in the Hudson Valley.
What makes it ultra luxury?
Yeah, so everything is truly done with the highest level of material and craftsmanship. And then really underneath it all pins our AI technology, which is designed to be truly invisible. Less noise, designed to be very intuitive to operate, and less complex for the consumer.
And the hood is made out of American black walnut, you said?
It is, yes, all wood.
So we talked about the wood, like it's still.
It is. We actually Port Rhode Island.
Wow.
So designed for all weather.
It feels and looks like a yacht. My question to you, Christy, is what gave you the idea? Why did you decide that we need to luxury American-made car?
Yeah, so my love of cars really started many years ago. I grew up under the hood with my dad, and my dad was a firm believer in American cars, only ever bought American cars.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I asked him, we know what the British version of ultra luxury is, we know what but what do we do? What does America do?
Yeah.
And he said we don't really have one that can compete. And from then on, it was really my mission to
You're like, no way!
to start our own. This is, this
All
is
right, so it's move over Ferrari, Lamborghini, get out of the way, Rolls out of the way.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews.
Anyhow, that's a new car that America is going to be turning out. Made in America. First luxury car dealer in 100 years. People say we're not going to be manufacturing. Okame dokame. I say we're going to be a manufacturing nation. I'm usually right. Not always, but mostly. What's it? Let's watch another video on what's going to happen for our future, because I've always said Burkina Faso is a social experiment in the monetary system, so is Ecuador. So let's see what's going on with Burkina Faso and their money system. They've broken away from ECOWAS, which is French-controlled money system down there in the northwestern part of Africa. This is Africa is powerful. Give them a little thumbs up here. ECOWAS in total panic as Mali, Burkina, and Niger launch massive $895 million investment bank. Not a central bank. This is 3 separate independent countries coming up with their own independent banking system. So let's see what they got to say.
Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have just launched a regional investment bank capitalized at 500 billion CFA francs. That's $895 million to finance infrastructure, energy, and agricultural projects across their territories. And let me be clear, this is not just another bank. This is a declaration of independence. This is a slap across the face of ECOWAS and a wake-up call to the entire African Union. Think about this for a moment. Just 1 or 2 years ago, these 3 nations stood up, looked ECOWAS in the eye and said, enough. They accused the bloc of abandoning them in their hour of greatest need, of failing to support their fight against the jihadist insurgency that has been tearing through the Sahel like a wildfire. They said ECOWAS had become a puppet, a tool of foreign interests rather than a genuine advocate for African unity and prosperity. And what did they do? They walked out. They formed the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, and the so-called experts, the Western media, the neo-colonial sympathizers, they all laughed. They said these military governments wouldn't last. They said chaos would follow. They said these nations would come crawling back. But look at what has happened instead. Look at what these three nations have accomplished while ECOWAS has been sitting in air-conditioned conference rooms in Abuja, issuing empty statements and threatening sanctions. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have been building. They've been creating institutions that serve their people, not foreign banks in Paris or Washington. And this investment bank, this is the crown jewel, the concrete proof that African nations don't need permission from anyone to take control of their own destiny. Let's talk about what this means for ECOWAS, because my brothers and sisters, this is where it gets really interesting. ECOWAS has been around since 1975, nearly 50 years. 50 years! And
Just
what
like
do they
the
have to
fiat
show for
dollar.
it? A common market that barely functions? A
It's been around just about as long as the fiat dollar system.
currency union?
Isn't that amazing that not only did the dollar in 1971 change, lots of other countries' monetary systems changed at the same time. Huh. Now the same thing's happening. Interesting.
That keeps most of West Africa shackled to the French treasury through the CFA franc. Where is the ECOWAS Investment Bank? Where is the massive infrastructure fund that connects Dakar to Lagos, that brings electricity to every village, that turns the agricultural potential of West Africa into food security for the entire continent? It doesn't exist. ECOWAS has spent decades talking about integration while watching its member states sign away their sovereignty to the IMF, the World Bank, and former colonial powers. And now, three countries that ECOWAS tried to isolate, tried to punish with sanctions, have done in 2 years what ECOWAS couldn't do in 50. They've created a financial institution with nearly $900 million in capital, funded entirely by themselves. Each nation is contributing about 5% of its tax revenues, money that could have gone into government salaries or luxury vehicles for ministers, but instead is being pooled for the collective good. Do you understand what that means? That means accountability. That means vision. That means these military leaders, whatever you think of how they came to power, are thinking beyond their own pockets. They're thinking generationally. Burkina Faso's finance minister Abubakar Nakanabo said it perfectly. Creating a development bank is a matter of financial stability, economic development, and financing strategic projects. Not begging for World Bank loans with suffocating conditions, not waiting for French aid that comes with strings attached. Financial stability on their own terms. Economic development for their own people. Strategic projects that serve their own vision. This is the Pan-African dream that Kwame Nkrumah talked about. This is what Thomas Sankara died for. And it's happening right now, right before our eyes, led by three nations that the international community has tried to paint as pariahs. Now let's talk about why this bank is such a game changer. Mali and Burkina Faso are among Africa's leading gold producers. Niger has some of the most significant uranium reserves on the continent.
I thought South Africa was the leading gold producer. I guess they're losing their way and West Africa is going to take over GDP, like I've always said.
Uranium that, by the way, has been powering French nuclear plants for decades, while Nigerians themselves live in energy poverty. These three nations are not poor. They are rich beyond measure. What they have been is exploited. This bank changes the equation. Instead of foreign mining companies extracting gold and uranium, sending the profits to Toronto or Paris, and leaving behind environmental destruction and pennies for local communities, this bank can finance projects that keep the value chain in Africa.
Oh, by the way, this bank will also allow Burkina Faso to create a couple Burkina Faso billionaires, which can help grow economies. If you look at what it's done for the American economy in the past 25 years, you'll understand what I'm talking about. That's why I have such an interest in Burkina Faso, because they are seeming to be on a path that will take them out of where they are and into a new future.
Process the gold in Bamako, not in Switzerland. Refine the uranium in Niamey, not in France. Use the revenues to build solar farms, to drill boreholes, to construct schools and hospitals. This is what sovereignty looks like in practice. This is what it means to control your own resources for your own development. And the beautiful thing is, they're doing it together. They're proving that Pan-African unity isn't just a slogan, it's a viable economic and political strategy. Brothers and sisters, let me speak directly to the ordinary people of West Africa who are watching this unfold. What should you expect from this bank? What does this mean for your daily lives? First,
listen to what this ex-diabetic revealed before they tried
First,
to
you gotta
silence
listen to
her.
this
My blood sugar used to
ex-diabetic.
hit
See what they
260
say?
every single day until
expect infrastructure, real infrastructure, roads that connect rural farming communities to urban markets, bridges that don't collapse during rainy season, energy projects that bring electricity to villages that have been in
Oh, by the way, those bridges that collapse during rainy seasons, they were built by the Chinese.
darkness since independence. The bank's mandate explicitly includes infrastructure, energy, and agriculture, the three pillars that can transform any economy from subsistence to prosperity. Second, expect agricultural transformation. The Sahel has been painted as a region of drought and hunger.
They're actually going to be a leading tomato agricultural producer here shortly.
But that's not the full story. With proper investment in irrigation, in modern farming techniques, in storage facilities and market access, the Sahel can feed itself and export food to the rest of the continent. This bank can finance the cooperatives, the processing plants, the distribution networks that turn farming from survival into profit. Third, expect a shift in the power dynamic. When your government can access capital from a regional bank that understands your context, that doesn't impose austerity measures or demand privatization of your water supply, that's when real development becomes possible. That's when leaders can say no to predatory loans and yes to investments that actually benefit their citizens. And fourth, and this is crucial, expect this to be the foundation for a new currency. Yes, you heard me right. This bank is not just about financing projects today. It's about building the institutional architecture for monetary independence tomorrow. You cannot have a truly independent currency without strong financial institutions to back it up. The Alliance of Sahel States has already announced their intention to move away from the CFA franc, that colonial relic that keeps West Africa tied to French monetary policy. This bank is how they'll do it. This is the infrastructure of sovereignty. Let me break this down because it's important.
Hold on, let me break this down. I didn't do shows on Burkina Faso for a while because they were having some issues. I wasn't sure what direction they were going in. I didn't want to do any shows on them. Other than the past 3 to 4 months, I haven't been doing reports on them. I've done reports on them for over a year plus, keeping an eye on them. And leading up to this point, all of the steps they've made, all of the decisions and choices they've made that have led them to this point where they can have this opportunity, trying to show how countries do things to make change. So if you go back and watch those videos, you'll see Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, the president, saying Burkina Faso needs to make a few billionaires. We need to build universities and make our own engineers. We're building a tomato factory, and we're kicking out all the gold people and making them re-sign contracts that are beneficial for Burkina Faso. All those different stories I did have all led up to this point right here.
CFA franc is controlled by the French Treasury. 14 African countries have to deposit 50% of their foreign reserves in the French Treasury. They have limited control over their own monetary policy. It's colonialism by another name, brothers and sisters. And these three nations have said enough. But you can't just announce a new currency and expect it to work. You need institutions. You need a central bank. You need commercial banks. You need investment banks. You need the entire financial ecosystem. And that's what Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are building, piece by piece. This investment bank is one piece of that puzzle.
It's amazing that their leaders just haven't been unalived yet, since they seem to be going against the World Economic Forum, and every central bank of every country out there. You've got 3 countries that have ditched their central bank and are creating their own banking system. This is truly something interesting to watch.
It demonstrates that they can manage large pools of capital responsibly. It shows that they can coordinate fiscal policy across borders. It proves to the world, and more importantly, to their own citizens, that they're serious about economic sovereignty. When the new Sahel currency launches, and mark my words, it will, this bank will be there to finance the transition. It will provide liquidity to businesses adjusting to the new monetary system. It will fund infrastructure projects denominated in the new currency. It will be the backbone of the new economic order.
Do you notice how we're going digital and all? I'm going to have a story on that here shortly, just to back this up. Remember this part of it.
Now, how do you think ECOWAS feels about all this? How do you think the suits in Abuja and Lomé are responding? I'll tell you, they're panicking, because this makes them look exactly like what they are, bureaucratic clubs that have failed to deliver for their people. ECOWAS threatened these countries with sanctions. They threatened military intervention. They tried to isolate them diplomatically. And what happened? These 3 nations didn't just survive, they thrived. They deepened their cooperation. They built institutions. They got things done. And now ECOWAS is left looking impotent and irrelevant. The African Union isn't much better. They talk about Agenda 2063 and African unity, but when 3 African nations actually practice unity, actually pool their resources for collective development, the AU remains silent.
You know, it's funny, everyone's talking about, oh, Agenda 2025, Agenda 2030, it's going to take over the world. Well, apparently the Africans didn't get that memo because they have an Agenda 2063, and it has nothing to do with the New World Order 2025 or 2030. So you got to watch out about what you hear, because it's regional, it's not worldwide. They're just trying to sell us on that bullshit.
Or lukewarm. Why? Because real Pan-Africanism threatens the comfortable relationships that many African leaders have with former colonial powers. It threatens the status quo where African countries compete against each other for foreign investment instead of working together for mutual benefit. This investment bank is a mirror being held up to both ECOWAS and the AU, and they don't like what they see. They see their own failure. They see what's possible when leaders actually prioritize their people over foreign approval. Brothers and sisters, what we're witnessing is a fundamental shift in West African politics and economics. For decades, we've been told that military governments are bad for development, that only liberal democracy and free markets can bring prosperity. We've been told to wait patiently, to follow the prescriptions of the international financial institutions, to privatize our national assets and open our markets, and eventually we'll develop. But Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are showing a different path. They're showing that sovereignty comes first. They're showing that
Sovereignty comes first. This is where all the stackers should be paying attention to geopolitics, because sovereign coins are supposedly what all stackers should have a lot of, the sovereign coin of your country. Why is the sovereign coin of your country so important? Why is the sovereign coin, the US Eagle for America, the Canadian Maple for the Canada, the Britannia for England, the Kookaburra for Australia? Well, this might be why.
are showing a different path. They're showing that sovereignty comes first.
They're showing a different path in West Africa from being on the one world nation track that the 15 ECOWAS nations were on, to a sovereign path where sovereignty comes first, then business and development follow, keeping all the money locally and regionally in your country, allowing for prosperity. Upscale that and look at what America's doing.
They're showing that sometimes you have to break with the international system to build something that actually serves your people.
Kind of like America breaking away from the UN and serving our own people. Very, very mirrored of what America's doing if you look at it.
They're showing that Pan-African cooperation isn't a romantic dream. It's a practical necessity and a powerful tool for development. Are these governments perfect? No. Do they face serious challenges, including ongoing insurgencies and political instability? Absolutely. But what they're doing right now, this bank, this alliance, this assertion of sovereignty, This is what makes the impossible feel possible.
The assertion of sovereignty. The assertion of sovereignty. You gotta love that word. You have your own national bank to assert your sovereignty, to allow your own country to gain interest off of loans to your own countrymen making businesses that'll keep the money in your own country. If you start learning about economics, you'll find that when you have, like, say, a small town and you hire a lot of immigrants that live outside of town and you pay them a lot of money and they send half of that money outside of your town becomes poorer. So what they're saying in Burkina Faso and what we're doing in America is we're keeping the money here. We're going to start manufacturing here. Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali are going to start manufacturing, producing in their countries, keeping their money in their countries. They're going to prosper big time. Hey, check this out. That would be a good economic investment if you can get your money into it. Oh, wait, you don't have to go that far. You can stay here in America. We're doing the same thing. But anyhow, anyone have anything to say? I know there's only two of you here. Must be a boring show. We're going to go to another shared screen here, and let's see. We're going to go to major crypto shakeup. Since we were talking about banks, let's see if we can't put this shit together. This is obviously Fox News, but we're talking about a digital bank that's just been approved here in America, a new bank, not hooked up with the central bank or the EU or the WEF or any of that stuff. So let's see what they have to say.
66. Bitcoin, of course, on a wild ride this year with a massive decline in prices earlier this month. Stablecoin issuer Circle has been leading the charge in crypto payment and technology systems after debuting on the New York Stock Exchange in June of this year. The stock is down from its highs, but back to roughly where it opened on that IPO day at $31 a share. Circle posted better than expected third quarter earnings, meanwhile, reporting more than $739 million in revenue. Joining me now with a status check is the CEO of Circle, Jeremy Allaire. Jeremy, great to see you. Welcome.
Thank you, Maria. Great to be here.
What's your take on this volatility for digital assets, in particular Bitcoin, et cetera, over the last 3 or 4 months or so? What do you think was behind it, and how do you see that volatility impacting Circle?
Yeah, two things. I think first, on the volatility side, things like Bitcoin have always been, more volatile. That has been less so in the recent periods, although from time to time, you have a lot of leverage, and when you have a major market move, maybe triggered by a global macro event, that leverage can pretty negatively impact some of the participants in the market, and then I think that kind of chases away some of the participants. Fundamentally, crypto assets, key blockchain infrastructure. The backdrop of all of this is the strongest it's ever been. And then, I think specifically with Circle, for us, we operate USDC and a family of technology services that help major financial institutions, payment companies, and others build on this infrastructure to modernize the way the global financial and economic system works. And so we're less about trading, speculatively in a crypto asset, and much more about a general purpose, general architecture, digital currency money to power payments and finance in this new system going forward.
Well, I mean, certainly
in this new system going forward.
Ahead. Circle, Ripple, and 3 other digital assets companies received conditional approval from the Office of Comptroller of the Currency for national.
Office of Comptroller. Do you know what that is? If you go back and watch some of my shows, you'll hear I said, if you want to know what's going to happen with money, don't listen to anyone except for the OCC, the Office of Comptroller of Currency. Let's see what they're going to say, as Maria Bartiromo just mentioned their name.
Trust bank charters. This is a major step toward cryptocurrency becoming a core part of the U.S. banking system, Jeremy. Tell me how you see this playing out. Are you, in effect, competing with the...
Hold on, we got to hear this again. So the Office of Comptroller of Currency, that agency that controls our monetary system. The Fed doesn't control it. It controls interest rates. It doesn't control the system. The OCC controls the system. Let's see what she said about what the OCC is going to do.
Major step toward cryptocurrency becoming a core part of the U.S. banking system, Jeremy.
Hold on, I'm getting to far back enough.
Office of Comptroller of the Currency.
There we
for
go. Let me turn the volume up so you guys can hear this shit. This is the most important thing I've put on my channel yet as far as it comes to money and what America has to do with money and what the American financial system thinks is money. So you might want to consider aligning your thoughts with the financial system of America.
Digital assets companies received conditional approval from the Office of Comptroller of the Currency for national trust.
They just received conditional authority to do what? Open a digital bank.
Trust bank charters. This is a major step toward cryptocurrency becoming a core part of the U.S. banking system, Jeremy. Tell me how you see this playing out. Are you, in effect, competing with the traditional?
Guys, we know that Toyotathon season is here. The magic is real, and Jordan Love is proof.
We don't have to listen to this shit, but it is a 15-second commercial. Sorry about that, guys. That's what happens when you share a screen. You got to put up with this crap. The Office of Comptroller of Currency. That's all you need to know. They're okay in digital currency. Doesn't matter what you think. Get into digital currency.
So we're really taking a different approach, and really for a very long time, we've talked about really wanting to take the model that we've developed with USDC, which is fully reserved money, where we're not lending money, we're holding on to it one for one, and then kind of have that be held as part of a national trust bank. And that's a goal that we had for a long time. And as noted, we've just received conditional approval for the chartering of a new bank, First National Digital Currency Bank. That is the bank we're chartering. And as we've discussed publicly since the announcement, this is really about continuing to strengthen the reserves and the security of the reserves so that whether it's a household or a business or another financial institution, if you're building on top of Circle's infrastructure, it has the greatest safeguards around it. And additionally, I think as there's this proliferation in things like digital tokens that represent other kinds of assets, our National Trust Bank could help hold on to those digital assets and safekeep them as well for others. And so we're not getting into lending. This is not a commercial bank. This is really to assist with the kind of core infrastructure that needs to protect this very powerful digital currency, USDC. And it also...
And the Office of Comptroller of Currency is keeping a very close eye on this, seeing how it performs to see which direction America's currency goes. So it's very, very important. Having said that, I would actually look at investing in this guy's stock because they're probably going to take off.
It relates to the Genius Act, where under the Genius Act, Circle will need to be supervised by the OCC, and this charter obviously would establish that in advance of the Genius Act becoming effective law.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that, but there was a reason that the major banks did not want you and others to try to encroach on their businesses in any way, even if you're not doing lending. And the question of competition always comes up from investors. I want you to tell us about that, because we've seen some companies launching their own stable coin, but at the same time, there are others choosing to partner with Circle in that regard on using the USDC as another payment. How would you assess the competitive landscape right now?
Yeah, it's very dynamic, Maria. A couple things I'd say. One is, post our IPO and the Genius Act, we've seen a really tremendous amount of engagement from financial firms, technology firms, commerce firms around the world, not just the US, but in jurisdictions around the world, who want to build on this infrastructure. And we're forming many partnerships, and we're very excited about that. Some of the leading brands in the world are choosing to partner with Circle. The second is that, in the core stablecoin network market where we do compete today, we've continued to strengthen and gain market share. We reported, as you noted, very strong results. We saw, year over year, when we reported over 100% year-on-year growth in USDC. We saw 580% year-over-year growth in the amount of transactions happening with USDC. So we see strengthening of our competitive position. and a widening of the types of firms and use cases all around the world that are going to use this technology. And then we're building major new infrastructures like ARC, which is in test mode, and some of the biggest financial institutions in the world, payments firms, tech firms, and others joining us in testing ARC as we prepare to launch that in 2026.
Yeah, and what kind of a growth story will that be? That was my next question in terms of the other revenue that the company is seeing because of fees from blockchain network partnerships. You've also added 5 new chains in the third quarter, 12 new chains year to date, and the launch of this ARC public test net. Tell us about that. What are you expecting from ARC in 2026, and how does that add to the growth story at Circle?
Yeah, you know, the way we think about it is we're expanding from our core position in digital assets, issuing USDC and operating a network around it. And we're expanding by going deeper into the infrastructure that can power all economic and financial applications on the internet with ARC. So ARC is an economic OS for the internet. We had well over 100 major firms join us in the testing phase. And our view there is that over the next 5 to 10 years, virtually all economic activity, economic coordination, contracting, value exchange, governance, every aspect of running the economy is going to move into being mediated by software on the internet in increasing ways, also very much integrating with AI, powering that software. And we need to build operating systems that are purpose-built for that. So it's a huge opportunity, not just for Circle. We think it's a huge opportunity for all of these companies who can become stakeholders in what we're trying to do with ARC. And we see a tremendous opportunity for enterprise value, for revenue and other things over the long term there.
Yeah.
We're not giving specific guidance there. And then the other is we're building Circle Payments Network, which is really an application that helps financial firms move money internationally more seamlessly using stablecoins like USDC.
Right, of course. And real quick before you go, the total stablecoin market right now, you say is $314 billion. You think it's going to go to 3 to 4 trillion by 2030?
Well, I haven't said specifically what I think it will go to. What I am happy to do is cite people like Secretary Bessent or other Wall Street analyst firms and third-party research who have a wide range of views, anywhere from a 25% CAGR to a 90% CAGR. What we've said is we're comfortable with a 40% CAGR in this space, but I think there is line of sight into the trillions over time.
That's amazing, Jeremy. Really great.
So basically what they're saying is that market cap of that industry is going to jump up about 8 to 10x in the next 5 years. So if you want your money to, 8 to 10x in the next 5 years, look at that asset class, do your own research, make your own conclusions, which industry you want or what company or whatever you want to invest in that asset class. And as that asset class grows by trillions of dollars, the market cap raises in that asset class, all the stocks in that asset class go up, you make money. That's how you become rich. It's one of the easiest things in the world to do if you don't want it to happen within 1 hour or 5 minutes, or listen to someone else say, hey, when do I buy? When do I sell? And then don't watch their show for 6 months, come back and ask the same damn question. Foolishness like that isn't going to get you rich. What's going to get you rich is following what your government's doing. If the OCC says they're doing something, I don't care what the Fed says. I don't care what the treasurers say. They react to what money is given to them to work with. The OCC tells them what money is. So if the OCC said they gave their okay to that company to do that digital asset banking type stuff, you really need to take it serious. No matter how you feel about the digital asset class, your money will be digital asset class. Along with the physical asset class, it's definitely going to be digital asset class. Your tax dollar is going to flow into it. So, look into it, do your due diligence, and you look at investments in that manner, and you'll probably do very, very well. Now, here's one. Again, I really do like this new solar. This is from Matthew Farrell, Undecided with Matthew Farrell. Let's see here. This is the website. I suggest everyone like, share, and subscribe to him. This is all his work. I'm helping publicize him. I'm not like, I don't want a YouTube straight, but this is about the how this Pravinsky breakthrough could change solar forever. It's about 16 minutes.
Could generate twice the power for a fraction of the cost, making them cheap enough that everybody would want them on their roof. Well, researchers in Australia may have just pulled it off. This is a solar cell made with both perovskites and graphene, the record-breaking result of a collaboration between 3 Aussie teams: the Queensland University of Technology, or QUT, HaloCell Energy, and First Graphene. This perovskite cell initially had an efficiency of 16.65%, which is well behind the 20% efficiency range that we're used to with standard silicon. The introduction of graphene almost doubled that initial figure to 30.6%, all while cutting production costs by an estimated 80%.
Oh my God.
How is this possible? And more importantly, when might these actually end up on your roof? Well, perovskites have some pretty notable weaknesses, and graphene might be just the thing that perovskites need to move forward. The question is it feasible for the real world? Both perovskites and graphene have been overhyped for years and tricky to manufacture, let alone manufacture at scale. Can they really solve each other's problems, or will the financial and engineering challenges just keep them benched? I'm Matt Farrell. Welcome to Undecided.
I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world.
Hey, it's me, your very
Sorry,
dry skin.
it's 5 seconds.
I'm uncomfortable and need
This video is brought to you by Ground News. First, let's back up. What are perovskites? What's graphene? And why should you care? We've covered perovskites plenty of times before, and I'll link to other videos in the description, so I'll keep this light and breezy. Perovskites are materials with crystal structures that lets electrons move freely. This makes them excellent solar absorbers, better than silicon. But they're fragile. UV rays, heat, and moisture all degrade them, which is a problem when solar panels need to last 20 to 30 years outdoors. Silicon, by contrast, is tough and proven. It's the solar standard for a good reason, but it has a hard ceiling at around 30% efficiency. Perovskites can push past that if they can survive. Enter graphene. Again, I've touched on this in the past, and I'm working on a deeper dive video coming up, so stay tuned for that. But graphene was discovered in 2004, which means it's barely old enough to legally drink here in the US. Despite its youth, it's strong, lightweight, and highly conductive. Researchers thought it would revolutionize everything. It hasn't, mostly because it's hard to produce pure graphene at scale. That's starting to change though. But here's the thing. Graphene's toughness and water resistance can protect perovskites from moisture. And combining graphene's conductivity with perovskite's efficiency yields impressive results. If researchers can make this work, you're looking at solar panels that could pay for themselves in half the time, survive extreme weather better, and actually make financial sense for the average homeowner. They cover each other's weaknesses. Together, they enable manufacturing techniques like the industry standard roll-to-roll processing that could actually make them viable. With that context in mind, let's take a closer look at that QUT HaloCell First Graphene triumvirate. The secret to their success is reportedly using First Graphene's PureGraph product to add a layer to PVs that boost their conductivity. The team claims that replacing precious metals with graphene has allowed them to save up to 80% on material costs.
Replacing precious metals. He just said replacing precious metals. I have a question for everyone in chat. What precious metal is used in solar panels? And if this replaces that precious metal, and it's going to replace the solar panels now, well, what's going to happen to all that silver that's not going to be used in future solar panels? That means there's at 20 grams of silver per solar panel, and there's several millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of solar panels out there. We're talking about 2/3 of an ounce per solar panel will not be used. And all of the solar panels out there will be recycled and replaced with this when the technology has it perfected. So that means that there's going to be an abundance of recycled and reclaimed silver on the market. So what you can deduce from this is it might be advantageous to start investing in a silver recycler that might specialize in the solar panel recycling. Because if this Pravinsky solar panel gets perfected and goes out there, it'll be 3 times as efficient, well, 2.5, 3 times as efficient as the solar panels out there now that use precious metals. As he just said, this one will replace the use of that precious metal. So precious metal of silver will not be needed in the construction of solar panels. And everyone touts solar panels being the biggest industrial leader along with military, which I've got videos on that, on how they're not going to be using a lot of silver also. So future tech changes mean there's going to be an abundance of excess silver from industry not being used by industry because of technological advancements such as
that boost their conductivity. The team claims that replacing precious metals with graphene has allowed them to save up to 80% on material costs. Again, they maintain those costs while boosting efficiency to that 30.6% benchmark. Their graphene pellet additive is made from graphite ore that has a carbon content of over 98%.
Now, as far as the silver batteries, there'll probably be more than enough recycled silver out of the old solar panels that there's tens and tens and tens of millions of for this new solar panel that doesn't use any silver, and that silver could be reclaimed and used in the silver battery, and it still wouldn't affect the silver price because we're reclaiming silver, and the technology of this solar panel will allow in the recycling industry to be able to recycle tens and tens of millions of solar panels and pull the silver out of them and sell it back to the industry to be used, to where it won't be a mined silver on the COMEX, but there'll be tens of millions of ounces brought back on the silver market because of the reclamation when this technology does get out there. That's what I'm saying.
A proprietary method uses electrochemical exfoliation to produce graphene from graphite. This is already a popular graphene fabrication technique, and it works by applying a voltage to graphite ore. This drives ions into the graphite layers and forces them apart, leaving us with ultra-thin graphene layers. The team claims that the process allows for graphite to graphene conversion rates above 95%. To put that into context, a conversion yield of 65 to 70% was considered highly efficient even just a few years back. This matters because graphene's strength has also been its weakness. It's so tough that integrating it into other systems has been notoriously difficult. If First Graphene's process makes graphene easier to work with, that's as important as the efficiency gains. Proprietary processes always make me a little skeptical, but I should mention that a 2021 paper in the Turkish Journal of Chemistry did briefly describe a very similar sounding electrochemical exfoliation method. This one uses a sodium hydroxide, hydrogen peroxide water system that can make high-quality graphene nanosheets with the same 95% yield figure. First Graphene could be using a similar process behind the scenes. Assuming that the claims are true, an 80% drop in material costs is nothing to sneeze at. It seems that all parties involved are very eager to get a competitively priced perovskite graphene PV on the market. Both HaloCell's perovskites and First Graphene's PureGraph are compatible with roll-to-roll manufacturing techniques. And this is more or less the cheapest and easiest way to make a PV cell, which should help to further drop the costs.
Well, I know we paid like $21,000 for the solar panels we have on our roof right now. So if it's 80% cheaper, that takes that $21,000 cost and brings it down to about $5,000, which is extremely cost effective. And if it doubles or triples the amount of energy intake and usage, that would make you want to take and sell all of your local power company stocks, because they're going to have a lot of excess energy left, and there's going to be no one to buy it. And oh, by the way, the cascading effect of that would be to lower your energy prices. So feasibly, with new technologies as they're rolling out, should be bringing down the cost of energy by 2030 down 75% from what it is right now, for which I've already said in other videos. It's just nice that technology is starting to come out now that other people can see, that validates my statement of energy prices will be 75% cheaper by 2030.
HaloCell is currently in the process of seeking extra funds to expand its plant in Wagga Wagga, Australia.
Waka waka.
Earlier this year, the plant began producing commercial perovskite PVs, but not the graphene kind, for use in smaller IoT devices. That's not as exciting as full-blown PV modules, but it is a verifiable step towards commercialization. The company's goal is to eventually boost manufacturing up to about 60 million perovskite solar cell units annually. Australia isn't the only place researchers are working to commercialize a graphene perovskite wombo combo. Actually, if I had a nickel for every time 3 organizations recently started working together to commercialize graphene perovskite solar cells, I'd have 2 nickels. But before I get to that second graphene perovskite solar cell, let me show you something about how we get information on these renewable energy advances. Depending on where you read about solar innovations, there are either revolutionary breakthroughs that will transform energy or just another overhyped green tech bubble. When stories mix cutting-edge science, billion-dollar investments, and climate claims, how do you know if you're getting the full picture? That's where today's sponsor, Ground News, comes in. Created by a former NASA engineer, Ground News pulls from over 50,000 sources and breaks down political bias, credibility, ownership, and even financial incentives behind the coverage. A great example, take any major story about renewable energy, like this one about renewables having surpassed coal globally. With one click, I can see a summary, political bias, ownership details, and a factuality breakdown for every outlet that's covering it. The center-leaning source keeps it straightforward with just the facts. The left-leaning headline brings in politics and highlights Trump's backing of fossil fuels. Meanwhile, one right-leaning source frames it as a question that's in doubt. Same story, 3 completely different narratives. If you're watching my channel, you probably like digging deeper into the science and technology behind these stories. Ground News helps you compare coverage, spot bias, and catch what others might miss. I especially like the blind spot feed. It shows stories underreported by one side of the spectrum. It's helped me recognize my own blind spots and understand the nuance behind the headlines. For a limited time, you can get the same plan I use for nearly half off. Just head to ground.news/undecided or scan the QR code to save 40% off their Vantage plan. Thanks to Ground News and to all of you for supporting the channel. Now let's get back to the second graphene perovskite solar innovation. Swiss company Graph Energy Tech, or GET, is teaming up with Taiwan Perovskite Solar Corp, or TPSC, and the University of Cambridge. Luckily for me, they have...
Those are three of the most prestigious high-end computer shipbuilding high-tech places you could ever think of. And they're all coordinating on this. There must be something behind it.
Have a name for their collective. The Graphene Electrode Technology for Perovskite Solar Cells, or GET-PSC. I don't know if that's how they officially say it. That's how I'm going to say it. GET-PSC's approach differs from the Australian team a little bit. They're specifically working on swapping out the precious metal electrodes in perovskite cells with graphene. Solar cells typically rely on expensive silver electrodes. And this isn't ideal because silver is expensive and getting more expensive. It's expected to reach $50 an ounce in the next year. Since silver accounts for around 10 to 15% of your average PV module cost, eliminating it doesn't just help manufacturers, it directly affects what you pay at installation. Silver electrodes also degrade when in contact with perovskite components. On top of this, lab versions of PV cells tend to use gold in their electrodes for the best results, which isn't really viable for real-world applications. Graphene, with its superconductivity and durability, already works great as an anode. So if we can make graphene anodes affordably and at scale, then we can cut costs by a ton. GET-PSC is well aware of these difficulties of manufacturing graphene, but the team claims it's figured out a way to get around that. There aren't a lot of details, but whatever the method, GET-PSC says its electrodes are compatible with scalable manufacturing methods like screen printing, slot die coating, and inkjet printing, enabling seamless integration within current solar cell production. This particular attempt to commercialize graphene perovskite cells has garnered some pretty significant funding from outside parties. Innovate UK, which is a British national R&D agency, recently awarded GET-PSC a cool £884,000, or over $1.1 million. Saudi Arabian oil giant Aramco also has a hand on the ball. Last year, it invested £1 million, or about $1.34 million, into the project. Graph Energy Tech's CEO, Thomas Baumler, has also mentioned that they're working on replacing silver electrodes.
And to give, Gerald said something about the value of everything compared to the dollar, and I always say we're getting a new dollar. In the beginning part of this program, I showed how Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali are inventing, creating out of nothing, their own bank and coming up with their own quote unquote dollar, whatever they are going to call it, backed by whatever it is they're going to back it by. And it's going to have value to it, whatever this new creation of a dollar that they're going to have, replacing the old dollar that they used to have. I mean, it's not an unheard of thing for it to happen. It's going on around the world.
Electrodes and traditional silicon heterojunction PVs too. That could be an interesting area of study to revisit later. While we're mostly focusing on attempts to commercialize graphene perovskite PVs.
Silver Ruger. I like you more now. Back in, oh shit, when was it? Late 70s, early 80s, my next door neighbor, he was a science teacher at a high school, but he was also good friends with Gary Gygax, and he helped write the second edition of the Monster Manual and the Dungeon Master's Guidebook. And we used to play Dungeons and Dragons all the time. We had a 3-day, it was a 78-hour marathon one holiday weekend where like 8 of us got together because Mr. McKeon ran one. He was a hell of a dungeon master, and he ran a good game. But I was big time into it too. But let's get back to the show.
Today, research in the field is still ongoing. Just last spring, a team of researchers from the East China University of Science and Technology, or ECUST, tackled perovskite's longevity issue with the aid of graphite. Part of the issue is that perovskites expand by around 1% when exposed to light. This doesn't sound like much, but repeatedly exposing perovskite to light day in and day out will eventually lead to failure through thermal and physical stresses. At best, that will cut into the efficiency, or in the worst case scenario, cause outright structural failure. The ECUS team needed something ultra thin and ultra tough to protect perovskite from itself. Sounds like the perfect job for graphene. And indeed, they did develop a special graphene polymer armor for perovskites. The armor is transparent too, since we obviously don't want to interrupt the PV's process. Their tests showed that the graphene armor reduced the expansion rate down to 0.08%. That's from a tiny amount to next to nothing. But here's why that matters to you. Solar panels are an investment that needs to last 20 to 30 years to make financial sense. If perovskite panels degrade after just a few years, you're replacing them before they've paid for themselves.
Collectors, it's the end of an era at the San Francisco Mint. Earlier this year, the
Oh,
U.S.
no.
Mint shocked the collecting world when it announced that it had no future plans to strike America's flagship-proof Silver Eagle coin at the San Francisco Mint. The first American Silver Eagle proof coin was struck at the historic San Francisco Mint in 1986, ushering in a new era of American.
The graphene armor extends lifespan to 3,670 hours of continuous operation under simulated real-life conditions, and the cells were still running at 97% of their original efficiency when the testing stopped. The real challenge isn't just lab endurance, it's whether these cells can match silicon's proven 20 to 30-year performance in real-world outdoor conditions. According to China Central Television, the ECUS team has begun pilot trials with industry partners. Unfortunately, the language barrier means that I'm struggling to find out how those pilot trials are going or who those industry partners might be. So if you happen to know, let me know in the comments. Clearly, perovskites are making incredible progress, and graphene is making incredible progress. Companies are putting a growing amount of time, effort, and capital into bringing these technologies to the market. It sure feels like it's a matter of time before graphene perovskite cells are in your hands. But I do want to pump the brakes. Despite the rapid advancement of these technologies, there's still some challenges that need to be addressed before you start seeing them on the store shelves, so to speak. First and foremost, longevity is still an issue. The various ways researchers have incorporated graphene into these cells is helping. However, helping is not solving. So while these cells made by QUT, HaloCell, and the first graphene triumvirate are logging impressive lifespans of that 153-day testing, when you place that in context next to 20-plus year lifespans of silicon cells, you can see just how vast the gulf there is between how advanced these new cells are and good old silicon. While mass manufacturing sounds like it's more or less solved, the particularities of graphene and perovskites means that they're both still quite tricky to produce at the scale that you need for an affordable commercial product. Perovskite cells can theoretically be produced using simple coating processes, but achieving consistent quality and performance across large-scale production lines has proven difficult. It's the same with mass-producing graphene at the same specific high-quality grades needed for most of its applications. There's also a lot of hidden costs when it comes to manufacturing these technologies. Remember, graphene and perovskites are both kind of divas. While companies and universities are in fact successfully developing ways to mass produce them with commonplace fabrication techniques like roll-to-roll processing, this doesn't eliminate the need to invest in things that will stop these materials from degrading before you're even done making the PV. Things like advanced barrier films and protective coatings are all needed to keep moisture, air, and light from messing things up. Plus, these are advanced materials. They require some measure of specialized training to manufacture. Advanced training isn't cheap and it takes time. As we all know, time is money. These issues are all compounded by how young these technologies are. Graphene was only discovered in 2004. Again, it's barely old enough to drink. While perovskites have technically been around since the mid-1800s, the first working perovskite PV wasn't successfully fabricated until 2009. As far as my team and I could find, graphene and perovskites weren't combined until 2013. That means these technologies are very immature compared to silicon PVs, which have been commercially available since the 1950s. Plus, silicon works well enough. It's hitting its theoretical ceiling at about 30%, but researchers have found ways around that with multi-junction and tandem cells. That represents decades of innovation, optimization, and mass production that have all helped to bring down the cost of silicon PV. So despite the real and rapid improvements in both graphene and perovskite, silicon has a multi-generational head start, and it may well take decades for graphene perovskite PVs to reach the kind of maturity and market penetration that silicon has. So where does that leave perovskite graphene cells? Looking at where the technology is right now, I'd have to say these fall on the lower end of the NASA technological readiness level, somewhere around a 3 or a 5. We've seen some positive tests in simulated environments, especially from QUT, HaloCell, and First Graphene. They're creeping up that scale pretty quickly, but there's no real way to tell when or if they'll make the leap to commercialization. That makes more sense when you look at the core pieces of the tech here. Perovskites have only just had their first commercial deployment last year, courtesy of Oxford PV. Then again, the technology has advanced pretty quickly in the last few years. I wouldn't be surprised if we check in next year to find it topped a rung or two on the TRL ladder. Graphene manufacturing used to be the major bottleneck, but the claims of these companies are proven, at least to the extent that it's now cheaper than the alternatives. This is reflected in the financial forecasts for graphene, which predict huge growth in the next 3 to 8 years, with a predicted compound annual growth rate of 36.5%. The same thing is true for perovskites with a CAGR of 43.34%. So maybe we won't have to wait too long. If this tech lives up to even half of its promise, we could be looking at even cheaper, more efficient, and more sustainable solar panels down the road. That's worth being tentatively, patiently, cautiously excited about. But what do you think? Jump in the comments and
what do you think? Hey, what's up, Deplorable? Yeah, if I get this job in mid-January, it's down in Berkeley. It'll take me about a half-hour drive home and down to the job and back. I'm gonna get a audio book for a language, Italian, and I'm gonna job hopefully will last 2 to 3 months, and I'm gonna see how much Italian I can learn at just about 1 hour a day of an audio book for maybe 90 work days or 60 work days. And if I could pick up a language decent enough in that short period of time, I'll be even more excited about audiobooks. Because if you could pick up a language that quick from an audiobook, you could sail a boat across the Atlantic. It takes 13 days. You could learn a full blown out language enough to speak to the people in the marketplace to get whatever you want from whatever language or whatever country. You could learn it in a 13-day sailing expedition across the Atlantic, doing about 12 hours a day of audiobooks, just having it playing around you for 13 days straight. Man, that's like 150 hours of listening. I intentionally do not want to have anything to do with Spanish. The closest I'll come to Spanish is learning Italian. And the only interest I have in learning Italian is I used to live in Italy. And back when I was in 2nd and 3rd grade, I actually spoke a barbaric form of Italian because I had the locals teach me. I didn't learn it from school. I just learned it from, basically going up there and trying to figure out what the hell they were saying and what it meant, and coming up with a communication to where I learned enough to, not be fluent, but get my point across for basic stuff. Where's the bakery? Where's the bathroom? Can I have some water? Where's the carbonary? Stuff like that. I wasn't like fluent talking to them. So I do have a base that I think in my subconscious, once I start to do like audiobooks, I'll recall a lot of it. All right, Gerald, I'll recall a lot of it. And when I recall, it'll help me learn. And that's why I think during about a 2 to 3 month time period, I think I could pick up Italian. And then after that, I'll try German, because when I was in high school, I took 2 semesters, 1.5 semester of German. So that way I'll be a trilingual of the basic European languages from the failed Europe. Italy's doing pretty good. They're kicking out their invaders. I didn't save the report, but their PM, that blonde female, actually their Supreme Court also has given permission to their Coast Guard and Navy to be able to throw up a blockade around Italy, keeping boats from coming in and landing on the shore and like having 30 people rush out into your country who you don't know who the fuck they are, and they just start working, doing all kinds of crazy shit, and then your crime increases. All the statistics are there. It's a proof. You can be Islamophobic as much as you want. When you look at the numbers of the past 5 years, yeah, you can be Islamophobic or you can be realist. The crime numbers in the countries in Europe and our own country, in Europe, they've really taken Islamic refugees. Their crimes specifically crimes against women, rape, all this stuff, up 1 to 3 to 500% ever since they started. It's blatantly obvious. It's not Islamophobia, it's realism. So don't ever let anyone say anything about that to you. If you look at the factual numbers, you'll find out the females in Europe are getting totally blatantly railroaded by political correctness. They are bearing the brunt of that burden. Kind of disgusting, but I don't live in Europe for a reason. It used to be a nice place to visit, but I'm not so sure about that now. I'd go to Poland. I'd go to Hungary. Those countries are still nice. See, what other countries would I go to? Italy in a couple of years might be nice. I'd like to go back there. I don't think I'd touch France. I don't think I'd touch France with a 10-foot pole. That place is going to be disgusting for a long time. No, I guess you're probably not allowed to talk to it, but I'm down to 1 strike. So if I get a strike, it'll only bring me up to 2. And in 3 days, my 1 strike goes away. So if I get a strike for talking about it, in 3 days, I'll still have only 1 strike. And then I feel like speaking some truth, and everything I'm saying is actually factual. If you go do your own research, you can. Hell, it's been on the news. It's not a lie. It's not misinformation. I'm repeating what I've seen, not what I've known, but what I haven't spoke about until I've seen other reputable news stations put out reports on it. So if they give me a strike, I will definitely, I'll put in a whatever, have them take it away. I'll rebut it, and I'll give proof that on YouTube, other news stations that are public organizations with federal funding, my tax dollar, which means I can use their content. That's why everyone can repost and talk about stuff that you can prove is on the news. Unless I've already been... And it's very rational. Very, 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 very. That is a very factual statement. And more people are starting to realize that. It's amazing. It's taken my whole lifetime for people to figure it out. The name in and of itself says a lot. The name means submission. Not forgiveness, not grace, not joy. Submission. It's a bad start to a philosophy. That's a good one, Deplorable. That's fucking humorous as hell. Yeah, I just saw a YouTube report on that today. You'll be able to get $1.9 million if you start a daycare center in Minnesota, Deplorable. And you'll be able to get away with it, and you don't have to have no kids or no employees. And you'll still get the money for free. I guess that's a good way to live. I don't know. Choice and opportunities and all that other good shit. Wish we had those choices and opportunities, but apparently it's only for Somalians in Minnesota with a local controlled government. Their blessing, apparently, because how can you steal that much money and not know about it? Someone's got to know. Hey, where's $9 billion? That's like 2 houses, fucking from the foundation up to the top of the roof, just cash sitting there. $9 billion. I mean, it's a lot of physical money. It's like, that's a lot. How did that come up missing? There's absolutely no checks and balances. It's excuse the pun. It's deplorable situation up there. I'm smoking the wacky California tobacco. I just cleaned my bowl today. As usual, got a link pinned up there if anyone wants to come up. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Let's talk about it. Who is Kirk? Oh yeah, no, I totally, you're 100% correct, Deplorable. It is a nationwide issue. It's centralized in Minnesota area, in the Dearborn area, more specifically. It's like that's a hub of a majority of that. But as with anything, it's not isolated with any one type, person, or community. Once some sort of a sham is found out that it can be run for free money, the longer that sham is run, the more quote unquote type of people, color, sex, age, national origin, religion, pick up on it and run with it. But it's a basic lack of morals, and that's beyond race, color, it hits everybody. That's why you should be kind, helpful, and grateful, not greedy, deplorable, and sick, and steal money that's supposed to go to kids and send it to people that kill kids and hide behind kids after they shoot at you and use them as shields. It's disgusting. But that's why I'm going to be moving to Alabama. That shit don't happen there. And like I said, Trump said that Huntsville is going to have the Space Force headquarters there, and it'll employ 40,000 civilians along with all of the military, Space Force military personnel in Huntsville area. So no matter what happens with the regular everyday American, wherever the hell you are, America economy, Huntsville, Alabama is going to be a prosperous city, and probably about a 50-mile surrounding area. Their property value is going to go up because you're going to have 40,000 brand new employees in a city that's got, I think, maybe 200,000. So you're adding 20% of the people to a town, and each one of them is going to have a 6-figure salary, along with a lot of military funds going into that city and subsidiary businesses opening up to supply and support that new infrastructure for the Space Force. It's going to be a booming area. It's already started. So if you want to make money, move to Huntsville. That's not financial advice. That's just what's happening. Even if I talk about it, it's going to happen. If I don't talk about it, it's going to happen. It's already happening. So, I mean, it's not good for that. It's happening. It's not, you can check the numbers yourself. You can see the reports, look them up. Oh yeah, no, it's all being siphoned out. See, yes, and it is typical. I'm surprised in the outrage. There's no outrage in the Social Security Administration with like 9 million monthly payments going out to people over the age of 125. I mean, let's do the math here real quick. Each one of those 9 million people are getting a monthly check of $2,000. Okay, what's that? Okay, 9 million times 2,000. Wow, we're talking a couple $1 trillion a year getting taken out of fucking Social Security for fraud. Can we patch those holes, please? If they patch those holes, Social Security will actually grow. Just by interest rates alone. It'll always fall if they allow fraud. Like, I'm 200 years old, I want Social Security. Okay, no checks and balances, give it to him. It's really messed up. So much fraud. And if we get rid of just 10-15% of it and about 2% of the federal employees, we'll be able to get a balanced budget by the end of 2026, along with probably zero inflation in 2026, which I've said all year long. Well, what I've heard several people agree with me on is difference between the two parties. If a Democrat starts an organization to help something and you give them $20, $15 goes to administrative fees and $5 goes to whatever they started. And that is exactly what you were saying. And it's exactly what it is, fraud, waste, and abuse. Because what they'll do is they'll start different programs and different companies to fund to funnel that money down to whatever it needs to, it was given for. And in the funding of that, it's the same even with nonprofits, man. If you look at animal nonprofits, that's why I'm against like PETA and all them. They get so what is that Greenpeace? Oh my God, that is such a fraudulent organization. They get so many tens of millions of dollars in, but they don't do anything for animals. They'll just film it. That's all they do. It's like a very, very well paid vacation vacation to film animals. They absolutely do nothing other than that. They are not nearly aggressive enough in stopping things from going bad. They just like document, and they get paid hella good to do it. And that's disgusting in my book, but it happens too. I mean, there's so much waste, so much fraud. It happens with nonprofits. People say, "Oh, I'm a nonprofit," and then it also happens with like parental care. If your parent moves back in with you, if one of your husband or wife stays at home anyhow, and the parent moves in, if that husband or wife who stays home anyhow gets a caretaker's license, they now get paid 40 hours a week to do what they were going to do anyhow. If you know about that program. So when a lot of moms and dads move back in with their kids, they'll actually get a 40-hour a week paycheck at a decent pay to take care of them, which you were going to do anyhow. It's the right moral thing to do anyhow. But the government's got the money, and if they have the programs, if you know those programs, you can go get in on those programs, and you can take some of that money too. Hey, what's up, Pete? That's actually more of a legitimate funding opportunities, or at least a way to get some of that funding. It's more legitimate than daycare for 109 students and never have any kids there and still get $1.9 million. That's a little bit sketchy at best. And as far as we're not talking about silver, gold, or platinum, it's because the markets are closed and they aren't really doing anything. But what we can talk about, and let's go with 6 months here. Let me go ahead and share screen. This is a asset that I had spoken with as far as the stocks, mining stocks. This is Clean Air Metals. And I've mentioned this one several times when it was 3.5 cents. And with everything going down, everything being poopy over the past couple months, this is a 6-month chart right here. Is it 6 month? Yeah, 6 month chart. So everything's been crappy. I've been talking about this back here. Told you buy. Had a nice little spike. Stayed a little bit higher than average by about 25%. Boom. Then it jumped up, stayed up a little higher. And now, boom, it's 5 cents over what I suggested when I suggested or gave the good advice of buying it. And, Impala, I used to have some of that stock when it fell down to $4. It's already 400x. I sold when it was like at $4.50, $4.50, $5.50. It wasn't many. I bought the shares so I could get the shareholders meeting and get access to the company so I could do research and develop, and figure shit out what was going on around there. Had I kept that stock, I'd be up 400%. So the platinum stocks are really doing relatively nice. Clean Air Metals, it's going to do good. In the past 6 months, right here, up 115% in 6 months. That is a good investment. Yeah, but if the money's there, deplorable, and the government, and here's the more important thing that people aren't paying attention to, they're all upset about the money. Where did that money come from? Whose hands did it flow through before the check was written to get to that point? Because all those people are complacent, because all of them knew that rules got changed to allow it to happen. Now, unless they can provide documentation that they are whistleblowers, they're complacent in the fraud. Ignorance is no excuse under the law. You have a job that requires you, and you work with the federal government, and you're giving out federal funds or state funds. You have to follow the law, not the politician. And all of them have been following the politician, not understanding that the politician is not the law, and you have to follow federal law. So state law say it's just all fucked up there, and people just aren't doing their own due diligence, and the state government is allowing a lot of that to happen, to allow all these more liberal-minded aspects of the law in, trying to create a precedence of long-term, well, this is how it has been, this is precedence, and it's getting thrown up in their face right now. Well, if you put it in at the right time and you did your due diligence, you could have made shitloads of money. I've told this story 5 or 6 times. A friend of mine, his ex-wife lives across the street. When Bitcoin was $18, he bought a whole shitload of it for a business transaction. And he ended up with like 44 left over because he got a deal on the business transaction. And he didn't have to spend all the Bitcoin he bought. And he just stuck that phone away with the codes and all that shit in it. Got a brand new phone because the new phone came out, and he didn't transfer the information. He just left it there. And like when Bitcoin was $44,000, he remembered. Actually, his daughter reminded him. She's like, "Dad, didn't you have like 44 of those Bitcoin on that one phone?" He's like, "I damn sure did." So he went back and he charged that phone up, his older phone. And he got in, got his password, found out, yep, got 44 Bitcoin. I bought it at $18. And he sold all 44 of them. Or, oh yeah, for all 44 of them at $40,000, $44,000. No, I have not sold, and I won't sell. As I said, the Clean Air Metal stock, for me, I'm using it as a bank account, as a residual income. Because even at 10 cents, which it is not, it's only like 8.5 cents. If you're buying 10 shares for $1, that's 10 shares for $1. And in 2 years, it's, gone up enough. You're not into it to sell the stock. You're into it's paying 10 cents per share dividend biannually, which means you're going to get 20 cents per share in dividends, and you paid 10 cents for the stock. So every dividend check you get, which will go up as the stock goes up, you're getting paid back for buying that stock because you got in early. Now, the people who buy in at $1 or $2, yeah, they're not going to pay. It's not going to pay off. It's like bragging rights getting in below 10 cents. And yes, I am in. Well, it's all again deplorable. It's not racism, because what's happened again is that government has allowed a fraudulent activity to happen, and it just so happens that race took advantage of it. The law that was broken was more by the politicians. The effect of those laws that they didn't enforce are the missing money. The perpetrators of the illegal actions are the political party that allowed those actions to occur under their watch, which they're supposed to not allow to happen. It could have been any group. The fact that it's just the Somalians is, well, too bad for them. It was illegal. They should have not done it as good, solid Americans. So they should be punished for not being good, solid Americans. But they're not they're guilty of the crime. But the crime was allowed by the politicians, and that's not a federal thing. That's a state thing, and the state propagated that fraud, the politicians, to the Somalians specifically. So you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. You're thinking, oh, they're victims, and cool, yeah, they're chosen victims that got paid very, very well and knew it in advance. Because if they knew federal law, as you're supposed to do as an immigrant, you're supposed to. I know for a fact, my mom became a U.S. citizen. It took her 10 years. They probably speed tracked them and made it only take 1 day. And that's why you can't freaking bring in immigrants and make them U.S. citizens without them doing the 10-year process like my mom did, because you have to integrate them into your society so they don't, as in France, jump out in the middle of the street during rush hour traffic and start praying to Allah stopping traffic, because that's what they do in the Middle East. Well, the Paris, last I checked, wasn't the Middle East, but apparently it is now. And that's what the feelings you're expressing gets you. Yeah. You know, all of the precious metals are doing good, Pete. You know, Silver Ruger. No offense, but women seem to have more feelings than men. Not that there aren't a lot more men nowadays than when I was a kid that have quote unquote feelings and a real touchy feely. Let me rephrase that. The best way to sustain a positive financial future is to negate feelings from the choices and decisions made in a financial arena. The harder it is to do that, the worse your financial future is going to look. So if you can't get the feelings out of your financial investments, you're going to be a loser. Now, whoever has the most feelings, they're the ones that most likely, by percentage, not individually. I'm sure there's always going to be those one or two, but you know, it's like the football player who made it into the NFL. Yeah, they don't talk about the 100,000 kids that broke their legs and broke their backs and got screwed up that didn't get that opportunity, but they did get the injuries and the fucked up life for trying. But the one kid made it, so that encourages it. And there's the ones that they're going to advertise and show, and that's going to encourage tens and hundreds of thousands more kids to do the same damn thing and screw up their lives for a dream that they cannot achieve, but their feelings and their emotions said they could. Oh, there's facts for that too, especially when it comes to football and college. Yeah, hell, you can look at high school football. Most of the high school kids aren't even educated enough to go to college. The only reason they go to college is on football scholarships, and they get out of college and they can't read and write and don't have any degrees other than in basket weaving, because the college only used them for the athletic skill. But even then, they weren't good enough to go to the NFL. So they're bums on the street, homeless, with 4-year college degrees, high school and college phenomenon that just didn't have enough to make it into the NFL for 10 or 20 years, make a career of it. You know how many of those motherfuckers are out there compared to the ones that made it? And then after you make it, I know a guy who made it, Victor Floyd. He went played for the wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. When was this? Was back in 87, 88, I think is when he played for them. Didn't even finish one season before his knee got blown out by a tackle. And his whole career, his whole life got fucked and went in a different direction. So, and he was doing good. He was good in high school. He was actually a wide receiver on the team I was on in high school. He was a senior. I was a freshman. I was actually on the other side of the field, but we both had 80 numbers. We were both receivers. And he was a senior. Victor Floyd, bright future. Luckily, he was intelligent enough to learn. So when he went to college, he actually learned. So he was able to fall back and open a business. And there are a lot more athletes that actually go to college and learn now than there used to be, because they see the reality of their career is going to be short-lived, which means they're not going to have that much money. So if you're a lineman in the NFL and you're only making $2 million and got a 2-year career, that means your whole life you just made $4 million. Hope you didn't spend it like a millionaire, because you're not going to have a good time earning anymore. Yeah, greed. And then she sold in a bad market. You lost probably hundreds of thousands. I could see that story, Silver. But that's where lack of knowing economics comes into play. Because if you know the economic housing cycle, it actually could be advantageous to sell your house and live in a rental for a year or two, and then rebuy your house back when the person who bought it went bankrupt or got foreclosed on. It might take 3 years. And you don't even have to buy the same house back. Sell your house at high, rent a house out for a year or two, wait till it crash, buy a better house with all your saved cash, because you weren't stupid and bought Gucci purses and fucking new cars with that profit margin. You actually invested it and made a little more on it until the housing crash came. Then you pulled all that profit and initial investment out and paid cash for a better house than you had 3 years before that. Who has the common sense to do that shit? Hey, if you do, you're going to be wealthy. The hard part's getting the first house and then following through. And a lot of people don't have guaranteed incomes. That's why I say start your own company, even if it's a small one. Then you know for a fact your income is based off what you do, not what someone else does. Because if you're getting paid by someone else, if something happens to them and their business goes haywire, you no longer have a paycheck. That's out of your control, but you still have no paycheck. If you open up your own company, you're responsible for your own paycheck. And you'll find out you'll make a bigger paycheck, because then you'll find out, hey, for someone to pay me to do a job and work for them, say it's just keep it simple, say $10 an hour. They have to charge someone $40 an hour for my labor, because they have to pay workman's comp, liability insurance. They got to buy all the PPE. They've got to, pay for the equipment. They got to do all this shit. And it costs a lot of money just to hire me as an employee at $10 an hour. That guy's got to charge at least $40 an hour to make enough money to be able to employ me. So it would be harder for him to employ me than for me to go work for myself and charge $30 an hour and keep that money. But people don't have that mindset. But that's the mindset you need to have. And not everyone can do it. Not every trade or skill or job you can do that. You can't do that as a secretary. You can't do that as a typeset. You can't do that as a court reporter. But there are jobs you can do that with. You can go ahead and start your own company and subcontract out and contract out for what they used to pay you an hourly wage for. Yeah, no reason to sulk on the past, Silver Rudder. That deters you from the positivity mindset you need to succeed in the future. Dwelling on the past is never a positive thing for future growth and development. Lessons learned and taking it in that manner is okay, but keeping track of how much you would have made had this not happened, then you've wasted the amount of time on putting your money on something that could have made you that much on your own by using that as an excuse. It was out of your control. You didn't control it. It's no longer, you shouldn't even think about it, especially if it's out of your control. And it was out of your control if you weren't the executor. You know how long, and I can say this with total conviction, Silver Rudder. My father died. I didn't get my inheritance for 12 fucking years till after he died, because my brother was the executor of the will. Yeah, and it was a house. Imagine what the fuck he did. 12 fucking years. So, yeah. And I had to get a lawyer when I even found out that it was still feasible to get it. I totally thought he fucked me out of it. Well, you just all you can do is drive forward, Pete, and always do a lot of research before you make that step. So that way you don't take a misstep and it costs you twice as much to go in the same direction because you started off a little bit off to the left or a little bit off to the right. Because had you done a little bit more research, going out talking to people or whatever kind of thing you're into, but working for yourself is obviously the best thing to do at all points in time. Especially if you learn about business, it costs a lot to have an employee. It really does. And as wages are going up, the cost of employees go up. It becomes very viable for you to do, like, say, if you work for a construction company and you do sheetrock, it would be more profitable for you to open up your own sheetrock company, doing the work yourself, and 1 or 2 employees that you could supervise because you're working there with them, and you'd make a lot more money. You'd have a better reputation. You'd have better quality control. I mean, there's just keeping things small is better, especially with companies. Most companies, not all companies, most companies. And people have forgotten that. But when it comes, people in the next 5 years, people will get it. It'll be late, but they'll get it. Oh, right on. You got it. You're set then. Yeah, you can't start your own company, Pete. That's one of those jobs that, it's like a court reporter. You can't start your own company in that. That's you got one of the careers you can't do that. But it is feasible for quite a few careers choices out there to get into your own. But now what is possible for you, Pete, since you probably make decent money, is take what time you have and learn to do something that you really think you want to do, or you might actually want to do, and get into that. And you could fund, with that good pay you're making as a firefighter, you could fund a great start, a launch for your own personal business that you could run yourself and do your own, unrelated to firefighting, if that would be a thing you'd look into. If not, I'd stay a firefighter. They usually have good retirement. But a lot of guys don't make it that long. It's like iron work. I'm an anomaly. I've been working iron since 1993. I'm still alive and healthy. I think I'm that 0.001% that is that in my career, because you can't talk to any. And there'll be other iron workers that'll be, yeah, I'm healthy. And then you say, okay, let's take a jog. And they'll be like, oh, I can't do that. My knee. Or you'll tell them, bend over and palm the floor without stretching. And they'll be like, what? I haven't been able to do that since I was 20. Okay, you're not, then you're not healthy, bro. I can do all those things. I've been an iron worker since 1993. I consider that healthy. And I can do it without ooching and ahhing and from crying about pain. $100% on board with you on that one. You then are 100% in control of your future. And there is no better freedom than knowing that. Trust me, the past 5 years, I've been hoping that the union would help me with my future, and they have not. But I'm kind of locked in. Next year, I'll be able to get out early. I'll take a 40% loss on my retirement, but it's better than what they've been giving me. And I'll just boot, scoot, and boogie. And that's where you start looking at purchasing power of the dollar and where the most purchasing power you can get for your dollar. And that's where looking at Alabama, I can increase my purchasing power of the dollar by 24% if I take my retirement and spend it there. In other words, if I move from California, getting a California early retirement, that's not like coming from Illinois or Iowa, where I don't know how much they pay. They don't pay nearly as good as what they do out here. No, I haven't. Oh, I'm glad you asked, Pete, because I have not heard of that. And I don't know if that might be possible. A blood infusion. I'd like to know the answer of that, Silverberger. Pete, if you heard about it, that's an interesting subject I know nothing about. I think it's called a forever chemical because it embeds itself in your cells. I'm not sure if it's, again, I don't know nothing about it. Holy shit. Start working for yourself. Find something that you like to do and get yourself set up. Get all your equipment while you're working, making money. Get all the equipment you need. Get everything you need to set yourself up in whatever kind of business you want to run for yourself, and get that shit going and give yourself the best fucking start. Because if you ain't got a retirement other than your own self-funded 401k, there's a lot of things you can do out there in life from the house, telecommute type shit, especially with your experience and that kind of thing. You could be a forest management consulting and shit like that if you want to stay in that field. Or you can get into, and this is a suggestion I have, 3D printing for a manufacturing company, and start a manufacturing company with 0 employees other than yourself and the equipment. They actually have, and they're not actually 3D printers. They're more routers that are run off CAD design, and they make specified parts by routering out the metals. Machines cost a little bit, but the profit margin, because so few people are in it, is dynamically high. So if you could, while you're working, get the equipment to do that type thing, you could get probably 3 times your salary working from the house, just shipping shit off. Have all the metals come in that you're going to process into your CNC machine with the CAD control, because CAD is like precise in the computer, telling the CNC machine where and how to cut. And if you have the right kind of equipment, the right arm and the right router and bits, you can do aluminum engine. A friend of mine, Pete Sasquatch, he comes in here every now and then. Not Pete Repeat, but Pete Sasquatch. He started a company doing exactly what I'm talking about. When SpaceX started with their space engines, and they were looking for new designs and shit, they needed somebody to build the shit, and no one had ever done it before. So my buddy Pete opened up a company using CAD design, fed straight into a CNC with a block of aluminum, the right grade aluminum, started up, got the piece that SpaceX wanted, submitted it to them. They said, yeah. He signed a 10-year contract to make space parts for space engines for SpaceX. Hello. So he had 1 or 2 employees, and he was building space engine parts for SpaceX, doing, basically what I just mentioned. And I was talking, I knew to do stuff like that before I spoke with him about before I even got to know him, but that's how feasible it is to do. You just got to get out there and do it. So if you're working and want to transition, that's just an example of what you could do. You could also do 3D metal printing, and you just need the machinery. There's a large market for that, where you can 3D print certain materials and just sell them from your house, to get the orders, ship them out, get the material come in to feed your machine, have it make the shit, ship it out. Yeah, your body does replace its blood cells. I'm not sure of the exact time. I used to know, like 35, 40 years ago when I was a medic. But yeah, your blood does, mitosis, splits, makes more of itself. Unless you lose blood too quickly, in which case you're dead. This community is a YouTube college. Thank you very much. No, there's just a lot of intelligent people sharing information. And I know a lot of intelligent people that give me good information. And I share because I'm kind, helpful, and grateful. I don't give anything but good advice. I do not touch financial advice. I do not touch medical advice. I don't touch any of that stuff. I don't give political advice. I just give good advice on different subject matters. Hey, what were the meowings? Make sure I hit that like and share it out. I need to get more views. Next, I think that comes from after this thing shuts down and people watch it afterwards. And that's where I don't get a lot of watch hours because my stuff is not interesting enough. Even though it is better than a college, it's not interesting enough. There's not a lot of people out there that want to get smart or want to learn anything about what this community can share. And as usual, if anyone wants to jump up on stage, it's pinned to the top. I'm more than happy to have other people come up here, as long as you keep it cordial and don't get loud, yell. I don't like yelling. If you're yelling, you're not getting your point across. At 100%, Pete. If you just come into something and give your perspective without hearing other perspectives, you don't have a full picture. And to do that, that's why you got to step back and not have blinders on when you go into anything. You got to have several different points of view on anything to develop any kind of conclusive thought on anything. That's why I always present the other side of the coin when someone says something. I'll be like, yeah, but what about this? From this perspective, how do you feel now? And typically, the average person that I do that to, they get stumble fucked. They're like, what? I never thought about that. Yeah, you just open your mouth and you say, do this, do that. And you don't think of the consequences to the other side. Now it could, and that's why I'm glad you're not running things. Because people who don't think like that shouldn't run things. Every choice and every decision comes with consequences, whether they be short-term or good-term, long or bad. These things need to be looked through, and not too many people do that. And when you do that type of stuff, you actually see different avenues and different aspects to attack a certain issue that might not have come to you had you not thought it through thoroughly in the beginning. And that's why it's good to actually have people to talk to and throw ideas back and forth, because they can poke holes in your ideas that you can think about, then come up with conclusions and fixes before you even talk to anyone else about it. And you can actually shoot down your own ideas by just talking to someone else and you'll be like, well, yeah, I didn't think about that. So that's fucked up. That's not a good idea. I won't waste my time on it anymore. But that's why you also, when people just start yelling at you instead of talking to you, you kind of sort of can easily profile, even though it's supposed to be legal. You can profile because it's an attitude, it's an intellectual level. It's not it's not race, color, creed, national origin, sex, whatever else. It's a mental issue, because if someone can't articulate a point and want to learn, if they're not right, to increase their own livelihood, something's wrong with them. And that is a big problem, Pete. That is a very big problem. They trust the organizations, and I've said this about even Fox. When you and you guys can listen up to it. They'll be like, when they bring on special people, like, oh, this is General so-and-so. Like if there's a military thing they need to talk about, they bring up special guests or whatever to talk about it, and they'll be like, this General so-and-so, he's a Fox contributor. Well, what that means is they're going to people that are contributing to Fox Network to keep it going, because it's an entertainment network. It's not a news network. They sell the news in an entertaining manner, which means it's manipulated. You guys, if you're gonna fight quietly, okay? Hey, I just said fight quietly. Sorry. Yeah, take it outside. I feel like a 70s parent. Take it outside. I don't want to hear that shit. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not allowed to give blood. I pass out if I give blood. Actually, I don't pass out. I go blind and act kind of weird. It happened one time. I was giving plasma, actually. And it happened, and they tested everything and said, no, you're not allowed to. Sorry. I was like, cool, because I hate needles anyhow. That's why I'm not a real big druggie. Man, I just love that castle picture. That'd be such a cool ass place to live. That's why they have screening for blood tests so you don't pass shit on. And what I just mentioned, they screened my blood and found out I'm the exact opposite of a diabetic. So my blood doesn't have everything in it that someone would need for a blood transfusion, so they can't use my blood. What's the Smith-Munded Act? Jeffrey Bodine. I don't want to look it up. You look it up for me. You know about it. You mentioned it. It's on you. What's up, kitty cat? What you looking at? I think I'm going to get an electronic mouse, like a Hot Wheels or an RC car, but mouse shape. Have some fun with these freaking cats. You think they still are they still using that phone? That fire phone? I know we use the red shit here in California and drop it on fires from planes, either water or this red chemical. Not foam. Actually, I think in the first 6 months of my videos, I have a video, Muir Island caught on fire right on the other side of the waterway. I got on top of the house and took a video of helicopters doing water dumps on the fire. Oh, Jeffrey ain't gonna tell us what it means. We're gonna have to look it up. This is what Google says. Let's see if I can get it in. This is what Google states about the Smith-Munded Act. Apparently, there was no change in it from 2009 from the 1948 Act. But that's what Google says. That's just a quick search. Like I said, I don't know anything about it. I haven't done any deep dives into it. And Google is not the greatest format to get your information to base any facts off of without doing a deeper dive and get correlating information to validate what Google says. I have to throw the disclaimers out there because I personally have not researched this. That is just what Google gave me in my preliminary, not even research, just a look-see, preliminary look-see at what the act is, because I've never heard of it before. What's up? What's up, Silver? Silver Boy Blues, excuse me. Man, I would never work on an oil rig, brother. Good money, but man, dude, I just saw a little video last night on the welders they have out there. and this one picture, this guy was hanging on. They're called angel wings. They drop down on ropes. We use them on high rise. What are you guys doing? Quit it. We use them on high rises. It's if you have to weld on outside a building and there's no floors. It's called an angel wing. It's like a little 2 foot by 4 foot, real thick plywood with ropes locking it in, and you drop it off the side. It levels off. You get down there and start welding. And the video was on a guy welding on a one of the big round legs of the welding of the oil platforms. Of course, with the seas coming and going, and he was definitely had a couple ropes tied off his ass too. And the camera was above him looking down. And the waves didn't come up to where his feet was on the angel's wing, but it came down close enough for me to be concerned if I was looking. Luckily, he was welding, but there was definitely sharks in that water. And had he fallen off, he probably would have been eaten. Oh, there's very much hope that I'm doing well, just not well right now, but in February, that's when my rocket ship blasts off, Silver Boy Blues. Yeah, that's what I say too, Jeff, when I'm asked to explain what the hell I was talking about. I don't say anything. I already got the information from what I found on Google was the act that you put out there. Pete, that's why I put out, and I just got correlating information, and I'll try and pull it up on, I think I got it on, let's see. Here it is. I'll try and copy this. No, I don't want to copy. I want to say how I can get it to you guys. Gallery. Save. Get out of here. Go over here. Go right here. Go right there. Go right there. Go right there. Click on that. There we go. How y'all like that? Let me see if I can't get rid of the banner so you can see that better. Or let me see. Yeah, I need to get rid of the banner. Okay, what banners do I got right here? How do I get rid of that? Too bad James not here. I can't figure out how to get rid of that right now. No, that's not it. That's not it. Huh. Anyhow, that right there, the balance of your pH is a very, 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 very good thing if you don't want cancer, because cancer lives in a low pH, and you don't want a low pH. Why? It's no good for you. So if you can balance your pH, that's like a baseline level of health and self-health and maintaining your own health, keeping your body's pH balanced and getting rid of, let's see, it contains a handful of salts. It draws out toxins and lowers stress-related ailments and balances your pH. It's a real simple thing to do. And if you do a fasting once a week as well, in most cases, yes, cancer does love sugar. But if your pH levels are too low, cancer can't exist in a low pH. It has to have like I think it's a 7.8. Let me double check that. I actually know. I just don't recall right now. What pH level does cancer live in? Let's see. Cancer cells thrive in a unique pH environment, an acidic outer layer of 6.7 to 7.1 and a slightly alkaline interior of 7 to 7.6, a revised pH gradient compared to normal cells. This is so it see. Let me share this page here. This will get it through to you. Share screen. Share screen. Share screen. Share screen. Share screen. Okay, cancer cells thrive in a unique pH environment. It has an outer layer of about 6.7 to 7.1. It has an inner layer from 7 to 7.6. So it has two pH balances. So if, according to what my thingy-majigger here says, it you taking a hot bath with Epsom salt and baking soda balances your pH. If you have a balanced pH, cancer has to have an imbalanced pH of both 6.7 and 7.1, or 6.7 to 7.1. Well, basically, from 6.7 up to 7.6, it has to have every pH in that area covered. Now let's find out. I'm going to stop sharing this page and I'm going to ask the question, what pH is the human body? Okay, now let me share this. And this is a little tricky. It's a health tricky. See, cancer needs all of that pH level to thrive. And that's why you feel sick when you have cancer, because it says it right here. The body pH is tightly regulated with the blood and most tissue ideally around 7.3 to 7.5. That is a very specific pH balance. You cannot have cancer if your pH is only 7.35 to 7.45, because cancer not only needs that range, but it needs a whole lot more range to live, thrive, and kill you. So if you balance your pH between 7.35 and 7.45, cancer cannot exist in your body, no matter how much sugar you have. Unless there's some chemical, you're at work or you're constantly being exposed to something. But in an environment where you go, they say you got cancer, you go home, you start taking care of yourself, and you get away from the environment you were in to where there's no external environmental reasons to causing cancer or any food that's causing you cancer, and you get all that shit squared away and you're eating good food and you're away from an environment, balance your pH and you'll kill off the cancer. Or excuse me, balance your pH and you'll have the best chance in the world to kill off the cancer with whatever medical doctors tell you to do as well. I like that statement better because I don't give health advice either. But that's just normal thinking. If you have a specific balance of pH in your body, if you can maintain that balance and not get it out of balance, nothing can live in your body except for stuff that lives within that pH range. If it has to live in a large variety of a pH range, and you're lowering that level to only a 0.10 high and low, very little things bad can live in that environment. Unless you constantly feed them through an exterior environment or food or you're constantly eating lead or, something like that. This is just general common sense thinking. As soon as you find out about your own body and how it works, you're like, oh, I got cancer. Okay, well, balance your pH. Whatever treatment you're getting might actually work. That's why I like you, Pete. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Chess? I didn't see you come in. How's it going, my friend? Well, explain what it is. Don't just apologize for not getting the date right. We don't give a fuck about the date. That doesn't tell us what it is. Or what the updates are, because what I saw, a quick YouTube Google search, there was no amendment up until 2009 on that act. I do hope everyone's going to have a great Happy New Year too, as well as I hope you had a Merry Christmas and got most everything you wanted. I not only filter the water that I drink, I reverse osmosis it, and I add Himalayan pink salt. So that way I know what minerals and whatnot are in the water that I'm drinking and cooking with. Hey, what's up, Mike? And that's also helps with health and not having cancer. Make sure that, because there's fluorides. Let me put it this way. I don't know for a fact what's in your water. I do suggest it'd be a good idea for you to take some of your tap water and go get it tested by the water company and see what's in your water. I do know for a fact I resheathed the roofing of 3 reservoirs here in the Bay Area for 3 different cities, large reservoirs. We ran steel decking on top of asbestos tiling that was cracking and falling into the reservoirs. So I know the Pinole, Oakland, and I don't remember the other city reservoir, but those 2 are 2 of the 3 of the city's reservoirs that I resheathed on top of it, and the contained water reservoirs that they use for drinking water, before we layered on top of what roofing system they already had over that big tanking system was asbestos tiling. And we didn't remove it, we just covered it over. So there's asbestos in the water. You think there's fluoride, there's chloride, there's all kinds of shit in the water if you don't filter it properly. There's a good chance you're not going to be as healthy as you could be. Well, I know a majority of people get sick because of a magnesium deficiency, so I would suggest not overdoing magnesium, but maybe once or twice a week, take a magnesium vitamin pill, like maybe magnesium and vitamin C or calcium pill, because a majority of humans, not a majority, a decent percentage of illnesses we have is the base reason for either developing or catching the disease or illness was a lack of magnesium in the body to allow whatever happened to happen for whatever reason happened. The lack of magnesium is a large part of the problem. So load up on magnesium in your body along with potassium. And also magnesium is a catalyst, just like platinum is a catalyst. Magnesium is a catalyst to your body to allow you to absorb more vitamin C. So because you can take like 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C, you're going to piss out 1,500 milligrams of it if your body can only absorb so much. But if you take magnesium with that vitamin C, your body might be able to store twice as much vitamin C because the magnesium's there helping it get absorbed into your system. So in other words, one vitamin works better with the other vitamin. Yeah, growing a lot of your own food and knowing where your meat comes from, buying from a local butcher. Simple things like that, filtering your water, cleaning your air filters at the house. Simple things keep you real healthy. I do a 10th ounce coin in every 5-gallon bucket that I have of reverse osmosis water. I put Himalayan pink salt in there, and there's a 10th ounce silver in there as well. So yeah, I'm not laughing. I actually do that, Pete. I actually do it. Yeah, I've done that for 15 years, 14 years, 15 years, something like that. I'm in reverse that's when I when I resheathed the reservoirs. I was like, oh shit. I got a special kind of reverse osmosis machine. I hook up the hose outside because I didn't want to hook it up to plumbing. So I hook up the hose outside, take my 5-gallon buckets out, I put a certain amount of not Epsom salt, Himalayan pink salt in there. There's a 10th ounce silver. Hook everything up. The wastewater goes to water the trumpet tree, and it blooms real nicely because of it. So it's not a waste of water. And the reverse osmosis water goes into the 5-gallon bucket, which already has the minerals back in it. That's why I said change your filters. You always got to change your filters to make sure they're optimal. But that's just different ways to take care of your health that you can do from the house, prevent you from getting sick and needing a doctor. And I won't talk about healthcare anymore because they're going through the legislation of Obamacare. And we're finding out a lot of nasty shit about that thing. Well, I mean, other people I already knew about it. Never in my life have I used any kind of Obamacare, whatever. Luckily, I'm a veteran and I have VA. And that's got fucked up with Obama, too. No, I have not. Silver. I have too many physical things that have to be done to worry about any metaphysical or any of that stuff. I just keep the spiritual relationship I have with God, in my opinion, personal and interactive, two-way relationship. I try and live a good life and be kind, helpful, and grateful. And I try to achieve things on this plane of existence because this is where I'm at. After we die, we'll go somewhere else, and I'll do the same there. I'll try and do my best in that realm of existence. But as far as trying to gain information from other realms of existence and apply it to this one, I think we were put here to not to worry about that kind of shit. Actually, I think this is supposed to be more of I think Earth and life here is supposed to be more of a playground for us. We're supposed to have a good time, enjoy ourselves, have fun. And because of evil, we have what we have now instead of that good time, fun, utopia. But anyhow. Yeah, if you stick with just the Bible, it roundabout also says that stuff in a more layman's term that keeps you on the right frequency and vibration to get where you need to get spiritually. In my opinion. But I'm a Bible guy, a Christian. Not religious, spiritual. I believe in a personal relationship with God, as the Bible says. Religion is for a, even in spirituality, you're not supposed to, there's no religion. It's a gathering. It even says so in the Bible, a gathering or two or more. It doesn't say you got to be Catholic when you gather, or you got to be Protestant, or you got to be Baptist. It never mentions any of that shit. It says two or more, and got to be there. So it's a spiritual thing. It's a personal thing. And if you want to reignite your soul and your spirituality, all you got to do is, like right now, there's two or more of us talking about it. Well, God's listening. Boom, there you go. You don't need church. Religion is all about money. Look at the Vatican. No, I need to quit. I'm going to get a strike. Going to get a strike. And I'm fixing to get rid of my last one in 3 days. I don't need another one right off the bat. I need to stay away from getting strikes. Yeah, there's supposed to be a good job coming up. I should be working in the middle of next month for about 2 months. Supposedly it'll be a 6-10 job. Well, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is don't have kids and don't get married. Does that have anything to do with dopamine and giving it away? Because I notice guys that don't get married look better as they get older than guys who got married and had kids. But that's just my assessment. It has nothing to do with dopamine levels or anything like that. But I know this is general observation. I've often thought that actually women steal your energy, but that's neither here nor there. Well, that's why I've been celibate since 1996. It's now not even a thought. We're trying to start a relationship, get in a relationship, whatever. I don't even think seduction would work on me nowadays. Kind of numb to it. That's often what I've thought. I might have been hooking up with the wrong ones, though. But then again, I hooked up with quite a few, so I have a 0 batting average for finding the right one, and 100,000% not finding the right one. So that either means the many that I went through were all bad, or there ain't that many good ones out there to be had. And in the time that I grew up, feminism was being pushed real freaking hard, and women saying they don't need men was being pushed real fucking hard. Guys like me hear that you don't need me, fuck, I won't come around then. And you lose a good man. And you find out you need to climb that tree to get the cat out. Yeah, that feminism just went out the window there. Well, and that's the thing. That's what we're just now talking about. It's the right one. I never found it. Yes, extremely fortunate. I was just going through my brain. I think the most successful relationships I've ever seen in my life were from the boomer generation and my mom and dad's generation. Every one of the people I know that are not of those generations are of generation and below X, Z, lazy, whatever you want to call them all. Even my brother, been divorced and married twice. I don't know one person from Gen X or below in the generational curve that doesn't have a divorce on their record. And of course, the way things went, the man always lost everything and never had a life after he got divorced. And it took 5 years for a woman to be able to do that to a man. And it was a righteous, godly thing to do. And I said, well, you know what? I'm not going to take that chance. I'll let this life pass me by. Obviously, the legal standpoint of being married to the wrong woman will ruin your life after 5 years, and you'll spend the rest of your life miserable and depressed because you made a mistake. and she'll spend all your money and go make a couple other guys more miserable, and she'll have a lot of money. And wow, yeah, don't want that. And that's all I saw. And I traveled. I was an I-worker. I didn't stay put, so it was prevalent. And I made a conscious choice not to even fucking bother. Choices and decisions. I'm very happy with my choice and decisions not to get married. I mean, I do everything myself anyhow. Hey, you want to talk about laundry, mopping, doing the lawn, fixing the car, changing out the window? I do the man's work and the woman's work. I have no problem with it. That's way too independent nowadays for any woman. I mean, really, at that point in time, what do you need the opposite sex for other than sex? You can have conversation with a friend on the phone, online, you know. You don't need them physically there. And if you're not interested in sex, well then, good luck, ladies. And that's a horrible scenario, because 90% of that 75 men's lives are ruined because the way the judicial system works, it favors the woman, not the man. It's not even close to being just or fair. Dude, I read typo, I read fucking Ebonics, I read backwards, I read upside down. My spell check doesn't fucking spell good. So it's all good, Pete. I use my computer spell check. It still throws up the wrong fucking word. I'm like, okay, this is a screwed up computer I got. But I hear other people complaining, so it's just not my computer. But yeah, I'm having some graphite molds made. Gonna get some gems made up. Crystallized osmium gems. Yeah, that sounds weird as fuck. How do you do a crystallized osmium gem? Interesting. How do you make it? It's not like it's going to be a real gem. No, it's not a real gem. It's not going to be an amethyst, but it's going to be a crystallized osmium gem. So you just have to wait and see when I turn it out. Because I was going to say no more, no more. Probably be February. Might be sooner, but most likely February. Yeah, I don't even look. No reason. I'm doing me. I got too many businesses I got to start, man. That'd be an impedance. I don't think I could find a woman that would want to help. Too independent, want to do their own thing, and I'm fixing to start my life. As soon as I retire from ironwork, it's all gonna be me. I'm gonna start a company here, company. It's 10 p.m. on Friday night. Let me double check my phone. I'm pretty sure it's Friday night. No, it's Saturday, Sunday. Well, no, wait, hold on. I don't even know what day it is. I think it's Saturday. I think. Yeah, it's Saturday, 27th at 10 p.m. When you're unemployed for wild days, don't matter. Yeah, you're ahead of us by 18 hours, I think. 5 from 10 is 5. It's 5 from 20. You're 19 hours ahead of us. I'm not into the metaphysical. My spiritual soul is exactly where it needs to be. Any more knowledge gains just makes me more liable in the spiritual realm, and I don't want to be more liable. I want to be less liable. So ignorance is bliss on that one. I know which way. I know I'm saved. I know I'm doing my mission. I don't need to learn anything about spirituality that's not in the Bible or Bible related. No, Edgar Casey's cool too, but he's also a false prophet. And there's something the Bible said about those. Nostradamus was a false prophet. All of them have been false prophets. Yeah, they lead you astray with interesting stuff that's, partially factual, but it's not for us. We're not Buddhist. We're not Hindus. We don't have 7 chakra and 32 karmas and all this other stuff. That's not for us. Christianity is for us. You want to learn Hinduism, Buddhism, and Zionism, you become a Hinduist, you become a Buddhist, you give up Christianity, you give up your spirituality, and you go to their system. There's separations for a reason. You guys, I don't want to hear that. What's up, you? One boing. Boy, you guys talking Australian stuff. That sounds like a wombat. Wombonian. You guys make sure to hit that like and share and subscribe. Don't worry about subscribe. You're already here. Just make sure to hit the like and share. I do like that I have Prince of Platinum up there because all the other YouTubers, once they start talking about platinum, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I know everything about platinum. And you guys will be able to say, yeah. And this guy's 3.5 years been calling himself the Prince of Platinum. How long have you been researching it, Mr. YouTube guy? Oh, I've been into it 20 years. Okay, sure you have. Why haven't you talked about it? Let me see your YouTube channels list, see where you talked about it and what you said. No, you just talked about platinum and the price, bro. Talking about platinum and the price does not make you an expert on platinum. You got to know contracts. You got to know companies. You got to know the geopolitical of the BRICS separation from America. Who's producing more? Who's controlling the production? Who's under price control? Not just, oh, platinum's $24.51. Yay. I talk about platinum all the time. Heck, I even do a deep dive into the only newest platinum mining company that'll be on the planet in the next, well, probably for at least 5 years after it opens. So probably till 2030, there won't be a new one discovered. And that's at their list. We'll probably actually, Astroforge will probably be actually the newest platinum miner after CLRMF. And then we might get one more actual physical platinum miner down in the Chile area or Colombia area. Because the geology of the ground is similar to underneath the crust area where platinum's mostly at, is similar to South Africa. There haven't been many studies down there, that many drilling projects to find out what minerals are in the ground. Because Darien Pass is controlled by fucking drug dealers and has been for about 25 years, 30 years. And they haven't been able to get in that specific area of the mountain range to do any tests. Not even come close. They can't even bring equipment and do side test drilling from like 2 or 3 miles away. So there's no surveys, ground surveys of that area. You gotta watch. You bring a weapon, man. This saltwater crocodiles, they're almost as bad. They're worse than sharks, actually, because they can come on shore. It's like fucking a land shark and a water shark combined. Hey, none of that crap. Man, I just keep looking at that picture of that castle. That'd be such a cool castle to live at. I know I've said it so many times. Oh, well, that's a good thing. All right, guys, I've been going for a little bit here. I'm glad everyone has been safe so far this weekend, this holiday weekend, and the next week of holiday, the New Year's coming up. I hope y'all do have a safe and happy New Year's. I'm going to go ahead and all right, on Sydney. That's where they have the shark attacks. And isn't that near where that Bondi what was it that we won't talk about that. That'll get me a strike. That's cool, Pete. Glad to know you're near Sydney. Yeah, I'm gonna end this. I don't want to get a strike and talk about that part of Australia and the news and whatnot's going in there. I'll probably do another live stream tomorrow. Who knows? I hope you guys have a great week ahead. I hope the New Year's brings you a better year than the year that we've had. And if you look at certain asset classes and see where the countries are getting money funneled into, if you follow that money and invest into where that money's going, I guarantee you're going to increase the market cap of whatever it is, and you'll do well in that investment, whatever investment it is. Do your own research, and I hope you guys have great luck in that. And I'll talk to y'all next time. Thank you very much.